Valley Kids tells the story of belonging and survival through a blend of narrative and documentary filmmaking. This is a love letter to my city, the city I grew up in, the city my best friends grew up in, the city that sits on the side of the freeway. But it's also an alarm bell for the rest of the country. 2020 has been a rough year. This is not news to anyone. COVID has not been easy to navigate. Lots of changes, adapting to new normals, and a lack of social connection. One of the more trivial challenges we face is the closing of trails and gyms. Social distance walks have become lots of people's new form of exercise, including myself. Through my walks around my neighborhood, Arleta, California, I began to see new parts of the city, parts I didn't notice before. Like a beautiful hidden Buddhist temple only 2 miles from my home. I also saw some things that sometimes made me wonder how they got there. I wondered their backstory, who put them there, what happened. These photos I began to take on my walks made me wonder what my friends were seeing on theirs. Maybe I could ask them and it would be a way to keep us connected. So I did. And I was not let down with their responses. I noticed some similarities in the things we saw and some differences. But the main difference I noticed that I had in my neighborhood and they didn't was this. This vacant building is a future home of a detention center for immigrant children. The future detention center, which is owned by Vision Quest, has faced some serious backlash from activists, community members, and politicians. Let's talk about Arleta for a second and why this hits harder in this particular area. Arleta is located north of Los Angeles, in the San Fernando Valley. It is so small it shares a zip code with Pacoima. If you're from LA and you've never heard of Arleta, that honestly makes perfect sense. We have 3 notable people listed under our Wikipedia page, and one is a murder victim. If you're from LA and you've never heard of Pacoima either, that's why I'm here to tell this story. Let's talk demographics. As of 2020, about 70% of Arleta's population is Latinx, and about 46% are immigrants. That's almost half. Almost half of Arleta's population was not born in the United States. Placing an immigration detention center in a city full of immigrants is beyond cruel. Those in the detention centers will see their mothers, their fathers, their aunts, their uncles in the people that pass by the building. They will see a reality that never manifested for them. These children have already been through so much, and now they are going to be imprisoned in a city full of people that look like them. These areas celebrate immigrant families like mine. This is my abuelita Marta looking fly as heck. She was 25 in this photo and had just immigrated from El Salvador to the United States with 4 children. She wanted a better life for her descendants. And she made it happen. 4 daughters, 8 grandchildren, and 6 great-grandchildren reap the benefits of her bravery. Here's one of them, Damien. He's the oldest of my grandma's great-grandchildren. He has a life ahead of him that she could never imagine for herself. But how is Damien, and so many others like him, supposed to thrive in a community that is imprisoning those that look like him and come from the same countries as his grandparents? That is the struggle Valley Kids hopes to convey. Damien will lead the narrative side of the story. Through his imagination throughout the film, we understand Damien and his ability to make the most out of his surroundings, to think outside the box and think bigger than what he sees. But after learning about the detention center, Damien will struggle with keeping his creativity while learning about the atrocities around him. Eventually, those around him will inspire him. He will learn how to balance his creativity with his identity. A narrative that is very true and hardly ever represented.
Hello, my name is Adriana Garcia.
Hi, my name is Stacy. I live in the San Fernando Valley, east side in Arleta.
I think my favorite part about it is that it has this really great duality.
You could live in the projects of San Fernando or Pacoima or in the rich neighborhood of Calabasas.
The kids that grew up here have a little bit of an edge, and I feel like we're more prepared to face some things than other people might be.
But there's also this idea of what a Valley kid is. No one talks like how they do in Clueless, like, oh my god, totally. My father was deported when I was in like second grade, so that scarred me for life. So I personally know what it's like to have family ripped away by ICE. And if ICE detention center, especially a privately owned one, popped up in my backyard, I would honestly burn it to the ground without remorse.
So just all the immense fear that they would have, and they must feel like they're completely isolated and just in a strange world. And it's so ironic to me that if those kids were to step outside and come across someone, the odds are pretty fucking high that that person has someone in a similar situation, or that that person knows someone who came in the same way that they did, speaks their language, looks like them, is them,